It's been 7 days, so that means it's time to once again prep for my weekly Shadowdark game. Hi everyone, I'm Michael Putlack from Night Moon Games, and using Mike Shea's Notion planning template, links down below, I've been prepping for my weekly game of Shadowdark and sharing it with you all. If you're getting anything out of these videos or have any ideas for the campaign, please leave me a note down in the comment section below. Anyways, off we go. I'll recap what happened in the last session for you quickly. Not as much happened as I thought it would, so I think we're going to be able to use a lot of our prep from our last prep video in this week's prep as well, so that'll save me some time. Anyways, what the characters were doing is they wanted to check out what was going on in the Gideon Temple in the city of Mirkos. One of the characters had been tipped off by a religious leader in the town of Treefell that there was something shady going on, so they wanted to investigate it before eventually going to get their sailors' uniforms and striking out to sea. So the party went to the temple, and they met Brigg, who is the current priest in charge of the Gideon Temple. He was adorned in fancy robes and things like that, which they all flagged as being not really true to the Gideon beliefs. And as they had a talk with him, they realized that he was very short with them and off-putting, and he made it seem like they were wasting his time. Although he did heal the bard, who did not recover the previous night because he had lost a pit fight in a bar. The party looked around, and there were a few parishioners there saying their prayers, and the wizard stopped to speak with one of them and understand what was going on. They found out that the priest there at the temple had actually only come around about 2 months ago, after the previous priest had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. This parishioner was Jolly the Halfling, and Jolly was pretty close with the previous priest, whose name is Endrick. Endrick had even left an ornately carved pipe at Endrick's house because Endrick was preparing with Sun to do whatever the Gideon form of a bar mitzvah is. So it was really strange that he would have just disappeared knowing that he had such this important religious ceremony to perform in the near future. The temple also had 2 guards standing in front of it, which is unusual for a temple like this. And one of the guards came in with them just to keep an eye on things within the temple as they were asking around. And I guess I'm saying temple, but really in my mind, it's more of like a chapel with a few rooms off to the side. So it's not a temple they would go diving into. They did flag that one door was locked though. And when the thief tried putting her lockpicking tools in it, the tools actually started heating up quite a bit. So it forced her to stop. And the players took a really long time to figure out this lock, but they did eventually get into the room. And of course, since there was a guard on duty, the bard had to use his fascinate ability to keep them distracted with some shadow puppetry or something like that. And I think that might come into play in this session with our prep too. After they got into this locked room, they realized that this was Endrick, the former priest's office, but it had been totally ransacked. There wasn't signs of a struggle, but it was clear that someone had been in there after he had been in there most recently, looking for something. They found his journal, and there was no indication that Endrick was planning on leaving. There's still this mystery up in the air about what he's doing, about where he went, and also where this other priest came from, because that's unclear. After that, they were able to go get their sailors' uniforms, but because it was getting late in the day at this point, they didn't feel like it was the right time to report for duty on the ship they'd been assigned to. So instead, they booked a ferry to the Southern Low District to try to get some more information, and that is where we left things off last session. So because I think we'll be using so much of the information we had prepped for the previous session in this session, instead of just creating a new session planning template like I usually would with this button, I'm actually just going to duplicate this session, and I'll go in there and make the appropriate edits. Now, as I mentioned before, Mike Shea created this Notion planning template, which is really great if you're planning any sort of RPG, really. But he's also written a ton of other material that is available on the internet for free, including this Sly Flourish system resources document. He's taken a lot of the key and core concepts from his books and distilled it down to the core ideas, and then he's released that in the Creative Commons. Anyone can use this. I think anyone can reprint it. Yeah, it's Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 license. So someone could even include this in their own work, and as long as they're giving Mike credit, it's all on the level. And of course, there's a link to this too down in the session notes below. The thing I'm most interested about here is the 8 steps of lazy RPG prep. This is the outline that I'm going with, and it mirrors the sections in the Notion template, which, if I haven't mentioned, is also free. So that's great. So number 1 is review the characters. We've got Bromhilde, a dwarf fighter with a great mustache, and I got some more information about Bromhilde just in the last few days talking to this player, and I'm just going to paste that right in here. So we know that Bromhilde's parents are Brolin and Bruna, and she has a dog and a brother named Bronson. And we also know here that Bronson has been missing for several years. So I think what I'm going to do with this character of Bromhilde, because I feel like this particular player isn't as engaged as he normally is, and I hope it's not my DMing. But in order to engage him a little bit more, I'm planning on maybe sprinkling in some hints maybe about Bromhilde's brother that might engage him a little bit more. Now, the player playing Bromhilde has seemed disconnected a little bit in our last few sessions, and that's not like a criticism or anything, because I think it happens to all of us. But my idea here is maybe I can sprinkle in some information about Bronson and customize it a little bit more to this particular character, and customize and direct the campaign a little bit more to tie in this character a little bit to hopefully better engage the player. Because honestly, I want everyone to have a good time, and I want everyone to feel like they're involved. And I think this is a good way to go about it. So we're going to find out a little bit more about Bronson later on in the prep, probably. Next up, we have Cesar Bond. He is the bard who got into those shenanigans a few sessions ago when he rolled on the carousing table and then found himself being caught red-handed in Lord Percy's mansion. Cesar Bond is a sailor, and I think that's going to come into play here because probably in today's session, they're going to end up going out to sea. Robbie is the party's wizard, and Darabi is a follower of Shun the Vile, but he doesn't lead on to let anyone know that. So he's actually been trying to convert and bribe a few NPCs along the way to convert to Shun the Vile, which I think is just a little fun thing that this player is doing. And he is also using Bromhilde as his lackey, as his muscles, since Bromhilde is this dwarf fighter, and Darabi is just a weak elf wizard. He also sees himself as the leader of the party. We have Gordy, the halfling thief, who recently came across a suit of armor that has mushrooms and fungus growing out of it, which I think is a cool flourish. Doesn't do anything extra special, but it's still cool. And finally, we have Vorvendinio, who is the goblin knight of Sinidris. And what I didn't mention before, as I was recapping the last session, is when they were going to pick that lock and it was turning red hot, Vorvendinius felt something inside her. Now, of course, since she is a knight of St. Yidris, she does have a demon that's inside of her. There was something going on with that lock, and demon was reacting to that lock in some way, and they haven't quite put together what that might mean. Well, I think some more might be revealed today during the session. I love this. So my partner and I were talking about something totally unrelated to D&D yesterday, and that was about how much I, as a person, enjoy having secrets that I can reveal to people. Not like bad ones, but like fun things. Like if I know someone has something good coming to them and I'm able to be the one that tells that to them, I get a lot of joy out about fun surprises for people. I'm a surprise guy. And I think that's one of those things I like about being a DM, is that I have all of these secrets in my head for this story, and they all just come apart and I just get to reveal them one by one. It's one little surprise after the other for the players. I really get a kick out of it. If that's something that you're into too, please give me some validation down in the comments below. I would really appreciate it. I would just like to know that I'm not the only one here. So we reviewed the characters. Next is create a strong start. Now the party is just showing up to the Frog and Wench, which is a bar in the Southern Low District, right here where this too is. It's known for its ban on all weapons, which causes various parties to use this tavern as a sort of neutral zone where people can parlay and come to the table while setting their differences aside. And we know that the NPC here is Elgrim, a dwarf, adult, lawful, standard wealth, one eye makes puns, cast from wealthy family. And they lost that eye trying to break up a large brawl in the tavern, which is what caused him to put his foot down and just ban all weapons. So he used that as a matter of public good. So I'm just going to add Ingram to our NPCs list. Ingram owner of the Frog and Wench. And the strong start here is going to be, they're going to be met by two big beefy bodyguards who collect all of their weapons if they do indeed want to go inside. But I kind of wonder, how can I make this a strong start? Because right now, going to a tavern, they're probably going to want to talk to people. I don't know like how long that is. I don't know like how cinematic that is. I don't know if that's really going to grip them to be how things start. I actually wonder if maybe when they arrive, they find that the Frog and Wench is closed. They're going to go up to it. I think, man, this is tough. So it's tough because it's difficult to know when to tell players no. And I wonder if them coming to the Frog and Wench and finding an order on the door with Lord Percy's seal on it, saying that the Frog and Wench has been closed for some reason, if that's telling the players no, and if that is the case, how does that create a more strong start than actually going to the tavern? Because on one hand, one idea that I'm rolling around in my head is that they go into the tavern, they don't have their weapons, they find out some information, they spend the night, whatever. You could also go to the tavern and get into a bar brawl, potentially. Someone could antagonize them, and that could be a way they go about things. But what's that going to do for the story? Like, how does that progress the story? How does the tavern being closed progress the story? What do they need to learn to progress the story? So maybe we need to skip around a little bit in the 8 steps of the lazy RPG prep to define secrets and clues. And so right now we've got a bunch of unused. The Dragon Turtle is where Lord Percy's family is. Torniquan is a demon in disguise. Parley's happened with Frog and Wench. I think they know that already. I'm going to keep it on there just in case. Father Mirkos is on a mission to find out what happened to the Gideon priest that was supplanted by Brig VL. Endrick has been locked away at the locksmiths in the Southern Low District. Brig was installed by the Vanilla Crew. All right, I think based on what we decided, based on these villains being a variety of demon, which is what we discussed in previous videos, I think they're going to go to the tavern. I think it's going to be open. Nix the idea of it being closed. And they're going to get in a conversation with, there's going to be some people there. And I've been really teasing Nilanj Vinos for a while. That's like the mid-tier boss who directed the raids on Treefell. And I wonder if Nilanj Vinos would be here because I think generally speaking, Drow, these dark elves, are a graceful shadowy elf that pounces like a spider. And I think drows are normally seen as being mysterious, which is one of the reasons why I picked them for the villain here. So I think maybe Nilanj Vinos is a regular at this bar, since it's the only place that they feel like they don't get mistreated because of them being a drow. So we're going to put Nilanj Vinos drinking at the bar, and they may overhear the adventurers looking for answers. The adventurers also might put some sort of a tracker supplies of one of the adventurers, since they are going to be checking those mostly at the door. Is that a fun idea? I think it might be. I think that Nilanj Vinos is aware of this person, and maybe if he talks to them, he'll even talk to them under the guise of speaking out against Father Mirkos. I still don't know if this is a strong enough start. Here's the thing. Vorvendinios is going to get pinged. Her demon is going to be drawn to a few people, random people in here. And I think that signifies, without telling the players this, that signifies that there are some other demons here in disguise. Demons in Shadowdark, and I think D&D in general, have the ability to disguise themselves. That's going to lay some clues there for Vorvendinios. There's something different about a few people, and it could be that same feeling she had when she was trying to pick that lock and it was getting really hot. And then we talked earlier about wanting to work in Bromhilde a little bit more. And I think Bromhilde has a beard. Let me check on that. A great mustache. I think that what's going to happen is the bartender, Hegram, mistakes Bromhilde for her brother, Bronson. That'll be a secret and clue here. Bronson joined the Navy and isn't expected back for several weeks. Bromhilde hasn't seen her brother in years. He disappeared. And this will give us an opportunity to sprinkle in some information for Bromhilde and the player to try to engage them a little bit more, to make it more interesting. I like that, because I can tie back in later. So that is the first scene, right? And then they're probably just going to do a long rest. when you're in a tavern, I think you're pretty safe when you're spending the night. I don't think I'm going to have anything crazy happen to them there. The first scene, obviously, Frog and Wench. And then the next scene is probably going to be them reporting for duty at the shipyard. Or you know what? I think something that, going back to the Frog and Wench, something that I don't do enough of, and I've really been trying to incorporate more into my DMing, is it's fun to use random encounters, but they don't necessarily happen to the players. You can roll a random encounter table in Shadowdark or whatever game you're playing, and let's say 2 orcs are pillaging or whatever. That could happen outside in the middle of the night, and the players could respond to it however they wanted to. So I think I might do a random encounter during the night, and we'll see if something happens interesting there. Just because part of what I love about Shadowdark is these random encounters and the generative nature of it all, because who knows, maybe I'll be able to tie it into with something crazy. I'll do that. I'm going to leave that note for myself. The next day, they're going to report for duty at the shipyard, where they're set sail with Torin Quinn, who gives off those strong vibes to Borbentinios' demon. And I think the players all think that they're just going to be able to get on the ship and say, let's just go land on the island, and it's going to be that easy. If sometime in the future you players are watching this, no, it's not going to be that easy. This ship is just destined to be on patrol along with other ships that are on patrol. You can't just snap your fingers and be where you want to be. There's going to be some complications there. And one of them is going to be dealing with Torin Quinn. They're either going to have to convince him somehow, or drug him, or put him to sleep, or do something so they can take control of this vessel. Or I'm sure there's other things they could do too that I'm just not thinking of. It's not going to be so easy as, let's just sail there, because come on, let's just let him off too easy. What are you doing here? It's not going to happen. So they're on a mission to patrol, land at the island. So there's probably going to be some sort of a take over the ship, / random ocean encounters. And the player who's playing Cesar Bond texted me yesterday and said, hey, if there's a chance that I could have a light source, can be like a lighthouse or something, that would be great. And I said, why? And he said, I want to do my shadow puppetry with it or something. Do you know what? Again, I was just talking about how it's not going to be easy for them to get to the island where they want to go. However, I always want to be on the player side. And if they have some zany plan like that, I wasn't thinking that this island is going to have a lighthouse, but I think it should have a lighthouse. So I think this island that the dragon turtle is on is going to have some rocky outcroppings nearby. And there's going to be a lighthouse that's actually stationed there that isn't directly on the island, that warns off ships that might be getting lost in the night from crashing into the rocks around this island. So I think it's a great idea. I think it makes sense in-game, in-world. And then if he wants to try some sort of shenanigans from it, and the party wants to try that, I'm all for it. Let's fucking go. And you know what? If they have a lighthouse and they want to go into a lighthouse, I would be willing to bet that Dyson Logos has a lighthouse. I bet they have a lighthouse map, so let's find out. Oh my God, there's at least 2 of them. Under the lighthouse? Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Okay, we're on the fantastic locations, right? That is potential scenes, secret clues. We're going to jump around a little bit, fantastic locations. And this fantastic location is going to be the lighthouse on the island. Let's go. So we had a great dragon turtle already. And Dragon Turtle Island Lighthouse. This area is going to be beneath the lighthouse. The Navy operates this lighthouse to prevent ships from crashing into the rocks nearby, as well as a lookout to keep people off the sacred island. Sweet. I might draw these out if we're going to play. I do have some cool battle mats that I'd be using sometimes, so I don't want to do Theater of the Mind. But it's good for me to have this as a reference, I think, so that I can describe it to the players. And then there's also a series of caves below the lighthouse that do lead under and then into the Dragon Turtle on the island. The way I'm playing, this is actually not going to be connected to the main Dragon Turtle Island. It's going to be a separate mini island that's pretty close, like a few hundred yards or something, but you'd have to take a boat to get there or be a really strong swimmer. And then these caves actually do go underwater, and you could actually connect up with the Dragon Turtle Island in a surface in the middle of this dragon turtle, which would be an alternate way. Jayquazi-ing is what they would call that, where it has multiple entrances and they double back on each other, and it's dynamic dungeon design. So that could be a way they get into the Dragon Turtle Island, or they could just arrive there. And if you remember my last video, I was discussing that I'm probably just to roll up the Dragon Turtle dungeon as I go. at the table, which I think would be exciting. It might be repetitive too, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. Because of that, I do think I want to prep a little bit for monsters, because I don't usually prep for monsters. I think I'm going to this time. So potential monsters is a Shadowdark? How do you say that? Shahagin? Shahagin. So that would be a nasty little level 2 creature they might encounter. Then we've got, what else could be under here? Oh, water elemental? Maybe they disturb a water elemental. That would be fun and a little bit dangerous there. Sea drag. Ooh, level 16. They're not going to deal with that right now. Deep one doesn't really fit. That can't be all the water-based monsters. Oh, but maybe I could use the monster generator. Stingbats? Stingbats can be everywhere. Aboleth might be cool, but that'd be tough for them. They're all at a high enough level that they could all... I'm just doing any sort of... I guess, maybe I can just go into the ocean. This would be easier. Ocean encounters. Yeah. This might be what I roll a little bit for the dungeon. And then, of course, into the Shadowdark, I think is what this is. Shadowdark maps. Deep tunnels, kind of cave, yeah. So I think I'll just be rolling a lot on this room type table, and then I'll be able to roll what's going on here. And yeah, cool. I think I have a good base for jumping off with when I do generatively create this dungeon at the table. And I'll definitely let you know how that goes, because it could be just a total catastrophe. All right, going back to Mike's list here. Reviewed the characters, we did that. Strong start, potential scenes. I guess we had to finish fleshing that out. Dragon Turtle Island, Generative Dungeon, and the Lighthouse. Okay, we got those. And I don't see them going beyond this at all. Especially at the rate this group goes sometimes. We're a chatty group. It's a lot of fun. That's not a criticism at all. Fantastic locations. I think we have a few. We've got the Lighthouse. We've got the Frog and Winch isn't super fantastic, but I think there are some interesting things going on there. And then we have that ship, and that's going to be, that ship ride is going to be interesting at the very least. We've got important NPCs we've talked about as we've gone. Choose relevant monsters. We got some of those. And then magic items. I just love using the Shadowdark rules to roll those up on the spot when it does happen. So I think we might be good. Think you would have done something differently, or you have any ideas for this campaign? Please leave those down in the description below. And of course, please subscribe to the video. It's the best way to make sure that you see more videos that I'm making, such as this one. And down in the description below, you can find links to my newsletter, where I'm actually about to make a big announcement here, probably in 2 or 3 weeks, about what my next big project's going to be. So I'm really excited for that. If you want to hear that first, subscribe to my newsletter, check it out below. And right now, you'll get some free Dragon Turtle lore for signing up. But in 3 weeks, I also have another... This isn't giving away too much. In 3 weeks, when I have that big announcement, I'm also going to have another Shadowdark adventure for you. Subscribe to my newsletter, and you can get that adventure when it comes out for free in a few weeks. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Also, if you didn't know this, I will be at GaryCon in a few weeks. So if you flag me down, I might have something to share with you. I'd love to meet you, say hi, and maybe we can roll some dice together too. So other than that, stay inspired and keep those dice rolling. Thanks for watching.